down.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to episode 56 of the Below the Yellow Line podcast. I'm your host, Joseph Laney Pavlon. Alongside me tonight, I have, of course, my colleagues, Justin Heber, Daniel Ford, who will be on with us in a little bit, and Austin LaPlante.
It's me.
Yep. We have a lot to talk about on this episode. Some good, some bad. The rhetorical cancellations, but let's start off with something very interesting that we learned earlier today. It was informed and official that Matt Kenseth, the 2003 NASCAR champion, lost under the Winston Cup Series banner, and the two-time Daytona 500 winning driver who achieved those three accomplishments with Jack Roush.
Yeah.
And found some success as well with Joe Gibbs Racing, including a Southern 500 win in 2013, is going to take over the number 42 Chip Ganassi Racing Chevrolet with the same sponsors, Advanhelt, Credit One Bank, McDonald's.
Yeah.
As soon as NASCAR gets back.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Kenseth, who has 39 career Cup Series wins and 665 starts dating back all the way to 1998, will become the oldest active Cup Series full-time driver.
Yeah. At age 48.
Wow.
Yep.
So let's get into this. Matt Kenseth, of course, it's been a while, right? We have not seen him in a car for the entirety of 2019.
Yeah. Last time we saw him in a Cup car, Homestead, where he finished in the top 10 in that number. He finished sixth, but sixth place is a good finish in that Roush number 6 because remember, Trevor Bayne was sidelined after some bad performance and other issues, which Matt Kenseth debuted at Kansas, where he got 35th after crashing, being 5 laps down at the time. But Matt Kenseth, there was races where he did good. Like the final 2 races, he finished 7th at Phoenix and 6th at Homestead. Which some races he did good, like the All-Star, he started on the pole. Like some other races where it was not that good because Roush has not been. Like, they were not like the old Roush Fenway, like back then when we had the big, better. Like,
Right when they led the Fords.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, now that's Penske. Penske and Haas, they're the ones leading that stable now. And
Right.
Yeah, role reversal.
Yep.
And that was basically 2010s to right now.
Yep.
But if you really think about where Matt Kenseth was when he was replaced by the then young up and coming Eric Jones,
Yep.
he didn't leave off his own terms. This guy was in his prime. If you look at the 2017 season, he finished 7th in the championship with that one win at Phoenix. Of course, that was the second to last race in that 20 car.
Yep.
10 top 5s, 18 top 10s, 2 poles, 421 laps led.
Yeah.
This guy had a lot more years left in him.
Yep. Yeah, he had more left in him. Like, he was only 45 then. Currently, he's 48. Like, 2018, he didn't even run half the season. He ran 15 races out of those 36 races ran. Like, the thing about Matt Kenseth, the reason he had to step out for... The thing about Eric Jones, he had no ride because before the end of the season, the 77 was already closing its doors because they were bringing the 5-hour.
Well, I mean, first and foremost, if you really think about it, Eric Jones was a Gibbs prospect, and the fellow Toyota team, being Furniture Row Racing,
Yep.
made a deal with Joe Gibbs to open the team for a second car, putting Eric Jones in there. And I think whether we wanted to admit it or not, it was going to be temporary. And I knew right from there that 77 was going to last the season. And, I felt like he was going to be in that 20 car, whether it was 2018 or even 2019, depending on what Barney Visser had to say about it. But obviously, it was really all for the better in the sense of Furniture Row Racing because they really closed all together. They couldn't handle even one car.
Furniture Row Racing moved it. The 77 had the 5-hour energy. They moved that to 78 the next season, but they couldn't afford it at the end of the season. That's how they shut the team down, and then Forrest left, got kicked
Kind
out.
of a sad story if you really think about it. But a short story really about a team that grew from scratch and became champions in just 12 years time.
Yep.
But Eric Jones was part of it. And if you go back to not even before he drove the 77 car, when he was subbing in for Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch in the 2015 season, just as a truck series driver.
Yeah.
And then for Matt Kenseth, after the Martinsville incident, we knew that this guy's ready and you can't slow him down. It's kind of like Tyler Reddick or Cole Custer today.
Yep. Because in 2015, Eric Jones made his official start at Kansas but at Bristol, after the red flag, he replaced Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin had neck spasms, but Hamlin started the race, so that's why Hamlin has the credit of that race. But then after that, at Kansas, Eric Jones ran the car because David Reagan was put in the 55 because Brett Moffitt was moved from that 55 ride to the 34, and also Michael didn't race that, so Reagan had to go to the 55. So they moved Moffitt to the 34, and they put Eric Jones in the 18, and then after Kenseth, the situation at Martinsville, those two next races, they ran Eric Jones in the 20 while running full-time truck.
Right, but in the sense of Matt Kenseth, I mean, he wasn't, I don't want to say he was expendable, but we could see that there were eyes for more talent, for future talent, someone like Eric Jones, and that's why Matt Kenseth had to be the odd man out. It was almost like, it's just a matter of when it was going to happen. But at the same time, Kenseth's time in Joe Gibbs Racing wasn't bad at all.
No.
If you go back to 2013,
7-win season. He won 7 races.
Right, he was the only man between Jimmy Johnson and that 6th championship. In 2014, he may not have won a race, but he scored 13 top 5s and 22 top 10s, scored 7th in the points, and then 15th in the 2015 championship, obviously with the controversy, and then 5th and 7th. So every season but one, Matt Kenseth finished inside the top 10 in the points.
Yeah. Like Matt Kenseth.
Yeah.
The thing about him, 2014, he was close to winning races, including Richmond, the first Richmond race. We know how Joey Logano took the lead and won. Kenseth and Keselowski had come. They were not happy with each other. Atlanta.
Atlanta, Casey Kane won. But I just want to make this a little more, broad. Will we see Matt Kenseth run next year and in the season's features? Do we expect a victory out of
maybe
the 48-year-old from Cambridge, Wisconsin?
Maybe.
I think a win is possible.
No.
Compared
A win is definitely
Ross
possible.
42
But
next year.
wait, hold on, Austin.
No, okay.
We're talking about wins.
Get a load of this guy.
Yeah, hold on, hold on. If Matt Kenseth wins like somewhere this year, right? Does that make him eligible for the playoffs this year? I'm not too sure.
I think so.
That's another question.
Kyle Busch.
Okay, but really, there has only been 4 races completed this entire season,
Yeah.
regardless of what's going on. Ryan Newman, Matt Kenseth, they are not out of reach from the championship,
Yeah.
or at least the 16 driver chase. They are not out of reach from them because Ryan Newman missed 3 races. Matt Kenseth only really missed 4 races this season.
Yeah.
True.
But let's go now into the perspective or the possible perspective of Chip Ganassi himself. The boss taps Matt Kenseth, and why would he pick Matt Kenseth and not a driver like Ross Chastain, who's been in the system for the last 2 years, or someone like Jamie McMurray, who spent his entire career, except for 3 seasons,
When he drove the 26.
right when he drove for Roush.
Yeah.
Why Matt Kenseth?
I think one reason about Kenseth, experience. He has a good experience level in the Cup Series, obviously.
Yeah.
Like, he
One
has
ch-
so many races
One
ran.
championship.
One championship. Like, he has 39 victories. Compared to Kurt Busch, not saying Kurt Busch is bad, but you need somebody else. Also about Ross Chastain. He's running Xfinity full-time. Ross Chastain was only scheduled for 2 races. Daytona and Charlotte in the
Yeah,
7th.
that's true.
And also, the thing about Ross, he's going for the Xfinity Championship.
Yeah.
So
Let him
he-
focus on that.
Yeah,
That was something he lost last year. Just don't forget.
yeah.
Even though he nearly won the Truck Series title and it was a late gain to the playoffs, he still wasn't supposed to be racing the Truck Series in 2019. And
Yeah.
of course, his original plans was to run for Chip Ganassi Racing. That fell through with
Yeah.
DC Solar
Yeah, I
and
was gonna
that
say.
controversy. But then, of course,
Shady.
he still was going to go run for the title, driving for multiple teams like Colleague Racing and Johnny
And-
Davis.
Yeah, but the thing about it, at the time, Ross did not think that Nice was competitive because the first 2 seasons of Nice was 2017, 2018. 2017, they ran with TJ Bell. In 2018, then they ran with Justin Fontaine. They were not
They were an afterthought.
Yeah,
But
that
then-
was an afterthought.
Mm-hmm.
But then in 2019, that changed when they got some GMS equipment. They have some.
It made the difference.
Yeah, like in 2018, you know the 52 truck. Before that, they didn't have that. They had GMS equipment starting in 2018.
Right, you know, you saw that with Stuart Friesen.
Yeah, like there's some teams like including like you know the 22 of Austin Wayne Self. They have some GMS equipment. They have a little bit of equipment in there. Same as Jordan Anderson. Like there's some like they don't run like they're not slow. They're not the lap trucks that get lapped like they're not Norm Benning slow.
Okay, Norm Benning
No,
slow
I'm-
is like
no,
really
no,
far back slow.
Or Jennifer Joe Cobb. Like
Yeah, Norm Benning,
not the
Jen,
best.
Joe Cobb, Matt Cumming, those guys, they're in the back. But if you really think about it, more like Jeremy Clements fast.
Yeah, they're not
Crack the top 10
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
even
true.
Ryan Sieg fast. Ryan Sieg, you get like top 5s, but
like Ryan Seacrest. They have some RCR equipment now.
oh yeah, they do.
That's really
But only for
they're
the car
slowly-
that Sieg
they're
drives.
They're slowly getting better. That's what you're saying.
yeah. They're slowly
Essentially.
getting better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
But let's go back to Ross Chastain though,
yeah.
and why they didn't pick him. I think for the right reasons. You know, Ross Chastain can't always be the guy to replace drivers. He's
Yeah.
only one person.
Yeah, there's like he
I mean,
can't-
like if you think about, he wasn't intending to drive the 6 car for Roush.
No, like Roush picked him because I don't remember the reason, but like one thing that Roush picked him, you know those 3 races he ran so far in the 6 car? Vegas. The Xfinity series was already at the track. Like Xfinity, they ran at the same tracks, which is easy, but like if Ross Chastain would be like example, when Kansas goes around, he's supposed to be at Mid Ohio for the Xfinity race. How does that go?
And with the cancellations and postponement races, they're probably going to happen more than none. We're going to see a lot more standalone races potentially. And anyways, it's better to focus on that Xfinity title.
Yeah.
Let's move down and see what else that Chip Ganassi. They could have went with Jamie McMurray, but he's a commentator for NASCAR and Fox,
Yeah,
which
he's
is
part
his
of the
new job
Fox
now. And
Race.
I think they should let him be. In my opinion, I had this thought about the 42 car. They could have done revolving. They could have done with revolving drivers like they did in the past. I know sometimes that I think they pulled out Jimmy Spencer for like Scott Pruitt at a road race.
Yeah, like they did. they did that, and like,
David Stremme. I know they did with 2006.
yeah,
We got some live comments here. Joe Samaniego, how's it going? He just said, like CGR verified with NASCAR, a waiver will be granted. He's good with
Oh.
sponsors, low key,
yeah, the sponsor.
and a win in the 42 is in the playoffs. Yeah, absolutely. And regardless, of course, that 42 car is high up in the owners' championship for Chip Ganassi Racing.
Yes,
Yeah, like Kyle
most
Larson.
definitely.
Yeah, like Larson did not finish like 30th in every race. No, he did not do that. Like the thing about the thing about not many drivers in the 42. One, I just realized. You know, some crew chiefs like, you know, the crew chief from the 18 last year, Ben Beshore. He had to interact. He had multiple drivers in that 18. Like some years you have multiple drivers, but like does that like the crew chief of the 42's Chad Johnson, who was
That
Tony-
stays, and the crew members
Like-
stay. The drivers different. And the best part about this move is the sponsors stay. These are not personal sponsors that came with Larson, but they,
No, they were-
endorsed him, of
Yeah, they
course,
were-
and pulled
yeah.
out, and they chose to stay with Ganassi.
Yeah, so you're still gonna see the McDonald's car on the track. Hopefully, Kenseth has luck in that car. Which, interesting fact, that's not the first time Kenseth drives a McDonald's car. When he replaced Bill Elliott in 1998, he drove a McDonald's car. So yeah, Matt Kenseth's not the first time he's driven a McDonald's car. So you're gonna see Kenseth running McDonald's again.
All right, so let's move along here and get into some other breaking news. This time it's Formula One.
July start. It's going to be hopefully a July start.
Yep, that's
From
what
what
They
it said.
are hopeful, really hopeful, and actually positive in their comments about the Austrian Grand Prix in Spielberg. But let's get into what we do know. And it was announced today that the French Grand Prix at Circuit Paul Ricard
Yep.
has been called off due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Yeah,
And the British Grand Prix, if it will run, it's going to happen without fans in the audience. So no fans at Silverstone.
Yeah.
Now we lose more races. Another full month of F1 Grand Prix racing
Yeah.
gone.
Yep.
Let's talk about it.
Oh.
Was this the right move, and what should we expect heading into the summer? Because Formula One is most likely going to be the highest or the highest affected motorsport from the
Oh.
coronavirus.
Yeah.
Worldwide.
Like the thing about F1. The problem is they go to like there's some countries like they go to multiple countries and some are worse affected than others. That's the problem. They go to different countries. They're not like NASCAR, which
Right.
they don't just stay in North America. No.
Right, because we're talking about worldwide here.
yeah.
People that will go from everywhere around the world.
Like biggest
Especially-
worldwide motorsports ever.
Yes.
Ever.
All right, we got some stuff in the live chat here. Joe Samaniego, all good here. Finally had a big interview. Hope we get to land a job. You go, Joe. Shannon Vanier, do you think they could showcase more races if they didn't allow fans in the audience, like for all races? Well, yeah, on TV.
Yeah.
Like, or if people don't have cable, some people don't. Just
Paid subscription.
Which is why they buy tickets to go see the race. But
or
unfortunately, in this case in time, that's not possible.
Or what they used to do decades ago. Sorry to interrupt you, Justin, but they used to black out the Indy 500 for people in Indianapolis for many years until I think it was about a decade ago they stopped that.
But
Yeah.
like some people could, they're stream. People could stream it on Twitch. We've seen people stream on Twitch or YouTube. Never stream any FIA race on YouTube. Don't plan on it. Don't
Yeah.
do that. On Twitch is okay, but YouTube no.
No.
The FIA sees something.
I'll give you an anecdote on that, Justin, because when Diet to Hunter 88. Go subscribe to him on YouTube.
Oh yeah.
I've
yeah.
done some videos with him in the past, and he's been he was actually on our very first episode back in April of 2019.
Yeah. Last
But
year.
we tried doing F1 reactions with
Ooh,
audio.
and that didn't
and-
work.
They took down the video because
I
the
heard
FIA just said, no, we're not. No, that's not.
Yeah, they're very strict on.
They are. They bear a lot of arms against fans. But, I mean, it's like FIFA, you can't just pull up
Yeah, like
FIFA World
Also-
Cup game.
also people never do NHL reactions because my friend Alex got copyrighted for that too.
Okay, but
yeah, like
in all
Don't
honesty,
remind,
um,
remind everyone. Oh, sorry.
yeah,
no,
you watch
no,
it,
Austin, you finish.
No, I was gonna say let's just not talk about the 2005 United States Grand Prix.
Oh no.
Slepshoe has actually just uploaded a video about that.
Yeah,
Oh,
and,
God.
he said he really does his homework. He need to go subscribe to you guys.
Oh,
yeah.
If any of you, the 100 new subscribers are not subscribed to him, subscribe to him. Moving on.
like
Yeah.
like
No,
the thing.
Justin, you finished. Hold on.
Yeah, just like for people that don't have cable, just try to find a live stream, or
Pay
I
subscription,
yeah, that's the
like
only
you do
two
in Formula
options.
One these days.
Yeah, just do that or NASCAR Drive. But you can't do that for the trucks. It's not available for the truck series. I don't know why. It's only available for the Cup and Xfinity. Sometimes it does not work right away. Sometimes it's crashes.
I mean, I know you guys in Canada have TSN Go, Justin.
Yep, that which it's more better than like literally they show every practice for free on their website. Like that's I didn't for most of the NBC sports practices are on that, so I just watch it like that. That's where one of my photos from Michael Annette looking like Jeff Gordon from Darlington came from watching that practice.
All right, so let's see what else we have. The 24 Hours of Spa, which was
Yep.
supposed to be the last weekend of July or second to last weekend of July, has been, of course, as we know, last week they postponed the race, so no 24 Hours of Spa in Belgium.
Oh,
But
sorry.
in October 22nd and 25th, the makeup date will happen then. It was announced over the weekend.
Yep.
And let's talk about Blancpain GT Cup for a moment. Of course, they, like many other racing organizations, have been terribly affected by this crisis.
We got a question.
Yes. Oh, live
Yeah.
chat.
Yeah,
Hey, Joe, how's it going? Oh, I'm doing great.
and
Hanging in there. It's
Joe.
final exams.
I just saw Joe.
I have an A in math. Joe Semeniego. I think F1 or other series should consider ending the season earlier prior to the cases going up in the fall and winter.
I don't know.
Oh, that's a tough answer because we have no clue what's going to happen in 8 months' time.
Like the thing about that is the thing about fall and winter. Some countries have snow. Snow tires do not exist. We're not gonna see snow tires on any race car.
I think that's why the last race in December, or the last race of the season in December 1st, is always in Abu Dhabi because you don't have snow there.
Because we're in Canada, that wouldn't work out.
No, we can't have the Canadian Grand Prix in Montreal in December.
No, because remember the time
Gets-
when it
Gets
was
too
snow.
cold.
Yeah, I remember the 6 hours of Spa last year when it was snowing in May.
You know, they showed on the Facebook page of the FIA World Endurance Championship the full race replay
Oh
live
yeah,
on Facebook the other night.
I remember the snow there. That
I was
snow
astonished.
Yeah, racing in the snow for a little
I never
bit.
watched it.
And also, that's why F1's races, they don't race in anywhere that has snow. In
Unless your
December.
name is Devin Coughlin and you race enduros in Iowa, then
Yeah.
sure.
But F1 cars wouldn't work in the snow. I don't think they don't have
No.
snow tires yet.
No, the only kind of racing I know of that has snow tires is rally.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've seen
wow.
videos.
Yeah, see,
mainly of crashes.
I've played.
I played Colin McRae back when I was little.
I played WRC 6, and I've raced in the snow, and I'm not good at racing in the snow. Yeah.
I had that one custom track back in Gran Turismo 6 that I really did good making. It had like all these turns and hills, and it was snow.
Yeah, that was horrible, man.
All right, let's go ahead and see. Okay, this is also breaking news that we unfortunately had to learn today. Audi, long time
Oh, yeah.
DTM factory supporter, has announced their withdrawal from German touring car racing.
Yep.
What does this mean to DTM? Because we know that a lot of manufacturers in recent years have pulled out. Of course, Mercedes, another longtime DTM staple, they pulled out after the 2018 season. Of course, BMW, and Audi. That's all we have left. And guess what? It's just going to be BMW now.
Yeah, I just saw that. Yeah, BMW is the only one.
And- This is kind of like Chevy leaving NASCAR.
Yeah,
In my
like,
opinion, it's. I mean, we know that DTM is not what it used to be 20 plus years ago, when German manufacturers would go out there and use those sprint races with their top drivers to show off their cars. You know, that's essentially touring car racing for you.
Mhm.
And I'd say it's really being led by the FIA World Touring Car Championship. They go worldwide. But as for the DTM, it holds a place in a lot of fans' hearts in touring car racing. You know, BTCC had their days. And then, of course, the DTM did. And now we're seeing the downfall.
Yeah, like, I'm looking at DTM. Like, the DTM, they only have. Do you want to know how I was what I was looking, just browsing. They only have 8 different teams. They have 4 BMW teams, which is just. It's basically just BMW team with 3 different letters like ART, RMG, RMR, RBM. Then we have Audi. Their teams they have the Audi Sport Team Sports Line, the Audi Sports Team Phoenix, Audi Sports Team Rosberg, and the Audi Sport Team WRT. There's 8 teams in total. But if without Audi, they need somebody else because
It's just
Ooh.
going to really hurt, you know, the rapport of the league.
well, the thing is, if you take out Audi, what happens for the Audi Sport teams? Like, without them, there's only going to be 4 teams.
Right.
Like, you don't.
Well, what we've seen, the thing with the DTM, though, it's really attracted drivers such as, you know, David Coulthard, Alec Manish, Mika Hakkinen, Ralph Schumacher. And you go down the list more recently, guys like Lucas Luhr, Marco Werner, Alex Premont, who won Bathurst last year with Scott McLaughlin, and drivers such as Susie Wolf, the spouse of Toto Wolff. But if you
Yeah.
just think about where everything's going to, it's just like, you know, it's sad, but at least they've done something about it ahead of time. And we've got to mention that they've done crossover events with Super GT, the series in Japan. It's more leaning, that's not like a touring car series, but that's more like sports car racing.
Yeah.
But at least they're doing something instead of leaving it DTM out to drive. Out to dry, not out to drive. Okay,
Yeah.
Judson, we got another question here, buddy. Here's a question for you guys. If you were the owner of Chip Ganassi Racing and you could choose any driver to compete in the 42 that's not full-time in Cup, who would it be?
Oh my god, this is so hard. Not Roman Grosjean, that's one thing. Don't put him in a cup car, I don't know. I don't even know who I would
That would
put.
breach the Haas contract, dude.
But that's true, but like, we don't want. I don't think Ganassi wants to see the car crashed. I don't think so.
Yeah,
I don't even know. I
I
don't
wouldn't
know
know
who I
myself.
would put.
I mean, if you heard what I said earlier in the podcast, that I don't even know if I mentioned it, but I was thinking if they would stick with revolving drivers instead of just one, like they have announced with Matt Kenseth, they could still do well, if not better. I mean, they have a really top running car and a great crew chief, and remember, but there's only 4 races that have been completed, so it's not like you're going to be missing out by hiring a full-time driver. But here's the thing: when I had the idea of like, okay, why don't we have some revolving part-time drivers in that car? We could see some of Ross Chastain, maybe Jamie McMurray, or even Matt Kenseth now that we know he's in there, or someone like Marcus Ericsson, Scott Dixon in the road courses. You know, maybe Rosenquist on the Roval, just for good measure. But they're still a 2-car team, and they're not afraid to open a third team up, even if it means they do it through Spire, like we saw with Ross Chastain in the Daytona 500 this year, as well as Jamie McMurray last year in the Daytona 500.
Like the thing about
Correct.
it also depends about the crew chief. Some are good with different drivers, but like Chad Johnston's only worked with one driver per season. Like in 2013, he worked with Martin Truex Jr. 2014, he worked with Tony Stewart till 2015. 2016, he's worked with Kyle Larson. Like, he's worked with only one driver per season. That's the thing. Some crew chiefs are not good at working with multiple drivers. Like, some crew chiefs are good with that. Like, Mike Shiplett. Like, remember 2018, that 42 car? Mike Shiplett was that crew chief, and that 42 really did good with Mike Shiplett as the crew chief. Like, some crew chiefs are not good working with different drivers every
It's all
race.
about chemistry, really.
Yeah, like some crew chiefs, like Mike Shiplett, he did really good with the drivers in that 42, and he did good last season with Cole Custer in the 00. So that's why he's currently the crew chief of Cole Custer at Stewart Haas Racing.
Okay. All right. So with that said, let's go ahead and get in depth into a certain field here. Over the weekend, there was a racetrack in North Sioux City, South Dakota, right near. It's actually northwest of Sioux City, Iowa. It's close to the border.
Yeah.
Park Jefferson International Speedway opened their racetrack for the first time since canceling events in March due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Yeah, like that's when I heard that, I'm like, what? I was confused at first. Because we're only right now we're April 27th. I did not expect that. Like NASCAR said, "Oh, we'll be doing that in May." We're April and they did that. I'm shocked. I did not expect that.
All right, so there were 2 key events that happened on Saturday night at the short dirt track oval, and IMCA modifieds, which are dirt modified late model design cars, had their A main, and the top 10 looked like this. It was Ricky Thornton Jr. from Adel, Iowa, that won the race over Cave City, Arkansas's Jeff Taylor, Robbie Sawyer from Bakersfield, California, same place where Kevin Harvick was born, Chris Abelson from Sioux City, Jim Tees from Mapleton, Iowa, Jacob Hobscheit from Plattsmouth, Nebraska, and then Seth Bargan, Kelly Sheerock, Joel Rust, and Jake McBurney finished in the top 10. But these 2 drivers with well-known backgrounds finished 12th and 13th, that being Kenny Walls and Ken Schrader. They were part of the event for the modified feature. There was another class of dirt cars that took the track that same weekend as well on that Saturday night for a 25-lap A main for the 410 sprint cars. Brock Zierfoss from Jonestown, Pennsylvania took the win over Knoxville, Iowa's Kerry Madsen, Austin McCarl, Ian Madsen from St. Mary's, New South Wales, Shannon Tankersley from Arlington, Texas, then Anthony Macri, Kyle Alfill, Jake Blackhurst, Jody Rosenboom, and Jack Bosfeld. That was your top 10. And mind you, they ran that race, or those races, mind you, without fans in attendance. The original plan was to run the race with 700 people in the seats.
Yep.
But due to major pushback from the local government and the CDC guidelines,
It didn't happen.
they decided to
Just
go
officials,
without
I think. Is it just officials?
It was just the crew members, teams, drivers, and officials in the facility, and they had strict rules. According to the track, masks were mandatory, and everybody outside the racetrack must take temperature and have a certain temperature taken
Oh yeah.
before
yeah.
entering the facility. So
Yeah.
basically, they needed to follow strict guidelines, and there were no fans in attendance.
Yeah. So basically, you had to make sure you didn't have a fever. Basically, that's what they're testing.
In other words,
If you're over 100, well, don't be there. Like basically,
Okay.
you have to be normal. Yeah. Like. Yeah.
so I'm looking at the IMCA modifieds and the 410s that ran in. They had an entry list of 30 in the 410 sprint cars, and then the IMCA modifieds had 24 total. So that's essentially about 54 different teams in that area. Now, they don't have any stay-at-home orders in South Dakota,
No.
but I'm just taking a guess they had about 50 different teams. What can we learn from this? What can the other tracks pick up from this essentially experimental return race?
But I think, or
It can happen.
like the thing.
Well, without fans. Fans,
Yeah, like the thing about it, like supposedly NASCAR's first race is Darlington. Supposedly, NASCAR didn't confirm that yet because their website doesn't say anything about that. It still
We'll talk
says
about
they-
that later.
But like, supposedly they should do that, the same thing as that track. But like, people.
Here's the interesting thing, Justin.
The
On their
fans.
website at parkjeff.com/schedule, their
Yeah.
next event will be on May 16th, 2020.
Yeah, I see.
It's
that,
a
yeah.
$2,000 to win Tri-State
Oh.
Late Models plus IMCA. And if you look on the website, there is still a get tickets thing you can click on.
Yeah.
So they're still trying to put fans in the spectators. Now, we don't know what's going to happen because that's May 16th, and there's still a long time. I don't know if it's a long time from now, but it's like a half a month from where we're
Yeah,
at today.
Today we are April 27th. And also, some fans are not the happiest. Guess what this fan said? This fan said, if there's not allowed fans in the Coke 600, I'm going to yell at the governor. I'm like, good luck with that. That's not, like, you
I know
can't-
one of my friends feels that way, and
nah.
who could blame anybody? But here's that. Let's go back to that race from
yeah.
Park Jefferson on May
Yeah.
16th. There will be not just 2 leagues like they had on 425. I think they just wanted 2 leagues to just see how things would
Yeah.
work, just
Yeah,
to
like-
say that it happened. But we have IMCA J and J fitting stock cars, IMCA Sport Modifieds, Hobby Stocks, Fox 620 Sport Compacts, and Super Dirt Late Models. So we are
Wow.
more than just 2. And if you look at their canceled race weekends, that's essentially what they had planned for on 417 and 418 2020. It's just a start, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Now let's go ahead and talk about some of the tracks that have shown interest in races with or without fans. Those tracks include Texas Motor Speedway, Atlanta Motor Speedway, Charlotte Motor Speedway, and Homestead Miami Speedway that have
Yep.
shown interest in NASCAR racing to return. What we've also learned is Darlington is rumored to have a NASCAR spring race due to closeness
Of
to
teams.
Charlotte. Yeah,
Which is true,
with
yes.
or without fans.
Yeah, yeah, it's like, thing about Darlington, let me pull it up here.
Yeah.
I need to do my research because I do not know distances between areas because
I'd say
why
it's
would
about
I
like a
know
few
that?
hours from Darlington to Charlotte.
Like, let me
I
check.
Yeah.
did my research. I was supposed to drive from Florida to Virginia and go through those areas.
Yeah, I see it. Just
Okay,
like I mentioned this before in another group. I said like the return of the Rebel 400, because that used to happen around this time, April or May, depending on the schedule.
Yeah, that event, of course, the last time it ever ran, which was 2000.
2004.
Oh yeah, 2004. I thought it was 2003, but 2004. But that
Yeah, everyone forgets
2003 race
2004.
I just,
was incredible.
I just checked the I checked for the how far Darlington is from Charlotte, North Carolina. The track is an hour 49 minutes. That's less than 2 hours.
That's
Like,
perfect distance in my opinion.
yeah, like going to from like Charlotte to like people are gonna say, go to Atlanta. That's farther away.
Atlanta's
from-
not that far though compared to other racetracks though.
Yeah, but like Darlington is really close. The thing about Darlington, it's not far, and also the teams, they have. I guess I heard the teams are allowed to start working in their shops again after a while. But like the thing about the shops, they have to get the cars ready. It doesn't take like you're not gonna have a car prepared. Boom! Overnight, cars are done. No, NASCAR cars do not take like 5 minutes to build.
Okay, and speaking of cars being built, the North Carolina government has planned to allow NASCAR shops to reopen under an essential business. So, meaning, of course, we have essential businesses and non-essential businesses. Essential businesses have the green light
Yeah,
to function.
yeah, because like.
And now we've learned that in North Carolina, where pretty much all the NASCAR teams are located,
Yeah.
and all of them in the Cup Series, they are now allowed to start working again.
So what about with this pandemic, guess what I heard? This one thing I heard about. Oh my goodness. The thing about this pandemic, it does take a toll for the small teams. Carl Long, the owner of MBM Motorsports, said he lost some money because of this. Like Carl Long, the small teams, they're on a budget. I mean, their budget is not like big like Hendrick Motorsports or any other team. Their budget is quite small. So they have to save money. Like sometimes I see Carl Long is using Toyota Camrys sometimes in the Xfinity series.
And they'll use Toyotas and Fords in a single Cup weekend.
Sometimes Chevrolets. They run too many.
I mean, listen, some teams are so underfunded that they can't even stick to one manufacturer because they have to take what they have or no racing at all for them.
Like Mike Harmon's team used to be like that when they had Dodge, but Dodge doesn't race in Xfinity
Right.
anymore, so they're just with Chevrolet. But they sometimes had trouble just field.
I mean, Carl Long used to field Dodges in the past.
Yeah, like right now, Mike Harmon has some trouble fielding both cars, the 47 and 74 Chevrolets. Like they don't run much sponsors. Like some weeks the 47 has sponsors while the 74 has no sponsors. Some other weeks the 47's unsponsored with the 74 having sponsors. Like the recent Xfinity races. Chad Fincham was driving a Camry from Las Vegas Auto Club and Phoenix in a 13 Camry, unsponsored with a yellow paint scheme. That's how I noticed his car was there, because of the paint scheme. But yeah, he was running a Toyota Camry. The only time that car was not a Camry was the Daytona. They ran a Supra. Like, there's some races they can't do they can't run the right
Yeah.
car.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Samaniego in the chat
Oh my
says,
God.
small local teams and short tracks are really losing money and time for the season. Yes, unfortunately, that's a price everybody has to pay during this pandemic. Because a lot of businesses are shutting down. They have no choice but to lay off employees. We saw that ISC
Or
Did-
furlough.
did that. Let's take a look and see what else we have here. So Texas Motor Speedway has given approval for NASCAR race stated by Eddie Gossage with or without fans there showing interest. Remember Eddie Gossage, president of Texas Motor Speedway, stated just a few weeks ago that he will not run an IndyCar race without fans in June. Now, mind you, that race is scheduled for June. We don't know what's going to happen then, but in the short-term future where NASCAR is being shown interest in returning again, I think he's on board with it. And he's a great track promoter. Not going to take anything away from his comments he said a few weeks ago about the IndyCar race, but he certainly wants to help assist NASCAR coming back.
But people were saying, I heard this so many times. People are saying, "Oh, how about they put NASCAR and IndyCar on the same weekend?" There's a problem about that I just realized. If NASCAR puts Texas and the NASCAR race and the IndyCar race in the same weekend, there's a race that was supposed to be scheduled for the Cup and Xfinity race. It was supposed to be Michigan. Michigan already has a date, but Xfinity, they don't have a Michigan date. They only have that one Michigan date in June. And then other than that other weekend, they run at Road America when NASCAR Cup and Truck are at Michigan. They only have that one date in June. If they decide to put the Texas race for all three series, plus IndyCar in June, what happens for the Xfinity series at Michigan? When are they going to run their Michigan race?
It would probably stay as planned. We have no idea. It's so far fetched
I'm
from now.
still thinking they should can't. I still got a feeling they're still going to cancel some races in NASCAR. I see it happening. I just don't see him getting all 36 races.
That's
The rest
That's
of the
another-
races.
I don't see that either.
You can't NASCAR. Fans are like, "Oh, I could do that on a video game." A video game is not the same thing. You can't run example. Oh, Atlanta's on a Monday, then they go to.
It's unrealistic.
Homestead
Unless
on
every single
Tuesday.
track was what it was 55 plus years ago when they had a 63 race schedule or something. When they had 15 car races at a short track close
15
by.
cars.
It's not 1964. It's 2020. We have about 30-ish races every year. 36 to be exact.
Yeah, we don't.
Modernization of the NASCAR Cup Series, which was that 1973?
Yeah, no, 1972.
Or 1972
Because in
was when they drastically removed
tracks
Or-
excess amount of
Or
races.
we call it the modern era.
They
Yeah.
literally took out the tracks that are underneath half a mile. They took those out and dirt tracks for Cup. But the thing about it is listening to fans saying about, "Oh, I could do that on a video game." It's not the same thing. A video game and real life, it's not the same thing. A NASCAR driver, drivers have steering wheels. Do you want to know what people have for video games? They have controllers. A controller drives differently.
In a wheel.
Yeah, a NASCAR stock car. You feel the sense of speed in a NASCAR stock car. You just do this, and you use the analog sticks to turn.
Excuse me.
The thing about it, it's the thing about squeezing all those races, it's impossible now. Some teams, the small teams.
Here's the argument though, and I have a little counter argument. I don't even think it's going to be relevant anymore now that we know that we lost a few extra dates like
Right.
Martinsville. Okay, the season finale, remember, is November 8th. not November 17th or 21st like we've had in years
No.
past.
Yeah, basically
No.
before Thanksgiving, except for
Yeah.
2001.
Yeah, that's
Right. In 2001, they of course had to move.
9/11.
Yeah, it's 9/11. The New Hampshire race in the fall was moved to late November.
Yeah.
Which,
Mhm.
listen, there are a few extra weekends in November. NASCAR should be open to having the championship 4 race outside of Phoenix just for this year. And what they should do is try the same schedule next year. That's just my opinion. And listen to this comment from Joe. There are only 35 weeks left in the 2020 calendar year. So how is that going to
Yes. I think
work?
I think for some reason, the thing about the outer weeks of the year, they can't run obviously they cannot run a track that in the north because snow. Like you can't race at New Hampshire in the snow. That's not gonna work out. Like you have
But
to
we
race
could make a Homestead late in the season.
like Homestead, like anything
Double
that
headers.
yeah, like you could make somewheres with no snow. If there's snow, well, that's not gonna work. Like you're not.
I
Gonna
will promise you, Justin, there is no snow whatsoever down here
if
in
there is,
November.
if
Oh
there
yeah,
is
Florida.
if there's something wrong, if there's something like that, there's the weather's being weird. That one, like there's like other places, like there's other places in the south that don't have much snow compared to other areas. Like the north, don't put Indianapolis. Like if Indianapolis was at the end of the season, that wouldn't work out because there's snow there. Chicago, the same thing. I've seen snow there. Like, don't put any races in the north in near December. That's why F1 ends a race where it's not snowing. Because snow, like you don't want to go one day NASCAR's like, oh, we're gonna race at Chicago. It snows. Like we saw that at Martinsville in 2018. I don't think the drivers want to relive through waiting out the snow.
Hmm.
Because the snow, that was kind of annoying when it was snowing. When I heard, oh, NASCAR's postponed due to snow, I'm like, I remember the truck race started.
There are a few. I know 2008 Atlanta had practice and qualifying wiped out due to snow. 2006 Bristol had a snow delay in
Oh,
the
yeah,
Busch
I
Series
remember.
race.
Yeah.
We had 2018 Martinsville.
Yeah, Martinsville wiped
Yeah.
out with snow, but at least Monday they got the Truck
Okay.
Series and the Cup event
I
taken care of.
remember. Yeah, I remember that. Like the snow was so like we did not expect snow. Like people were, but do you know what some of the drivers did? Instead of staying in Martinsville, they actually went back home because it's literally an hour drive to North Carolina from Martinsville. Like it's not far. So most of the drivers went back home and then they came back the next morning for the races, which was already good. Like remember the truck race, they were rolling under the pace laps until the snow came.
I didn't even remember that.
I remember Ben Rhodes rolled off the grid and then it started snowing. I remember watching that.
Oh,
And
you know what? I do remember it because
Yeah, Ben Rhodes was the
Yeah,
pole
we feel
sitter.
old right now.
And then it started snowing. I'm like, oh my, it's gonna be postponed because you can't race in the snow, obviously. But like,
but the best part about Martinsville was it was an easy cleanup
yeah, like
with the
Martinsville-
short,
It's a short
flat track with flat bankings.
But if Talladega would have had snow if Talladega
no.
would have been, oh, that would have been.
But there's hardly, I don't think there's snow that much over there in Lincoln, Alabama. So it wouldn't
Yeah.
be a big deal.
Or
But
at
if they built Talladega somewhere, if there was a bigger track, like example, if Talladega was in the north, that would not go well. Cleaning that track up with snow.
Right. Let's see what else we have here. So speaking of racetracks that are open to hosting an event or a makeup event, Imola, host of the former San Marino Grand Prix in Formula One, has offered to host a Formula One race behind closed doors if needed. Now, this is new information. Of course, Imola has not hosted a race since, I believe, 2005.
Let me
If I'm
check.
not mistaken. I think somewhere around the 2000s.
Specifically, where is that? Because again, I started watching F1 very late.
Italy.
Yeah, it's in
Oh, okay.
I'm checking. Wait, no. Oh my gosh. It
It's,
was
it's a track in Imola.
Imola.
The San Marino Grand Prix, of course, known for the wrong reasons. 1994.
Mm,
Oh, it was 2006.
yeah.
Yeah.
But of course, that track was known for the wrong reasons and the death of Ayrton Senna.
Yep. Ayrton Senna in 1994. Which literally.
And Roland Ratzenberger the previous day. But of course, they put safety features in years later. It's not that big of a racetrack when it comes to today's F1 standards. They don't have like DRS zone and the usual Tilke characteristics of the Herman Tilke track. But I'm for it. However, Italy is still a hotspot for COVID-19, but so is every other country at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's some countries that are less, but there's some countries that don't have racetracks.
I mean,
it's
we
hard-
were just talking about a facility in North Sioux City, South Dakota, with a population of 2,530 people, according to the 2010 census. So it may make sense there, but it may not make sense in other places. And unfortunately, that's the majority of racetracks right now.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what else we have. Some sad news. NHRA pioneer Barbara Hamilton, one of the first few female drivers in drag racing, has died at the age of 78 this past week.
Oh,
She broke the gender barrier for many female drivers in drag racing, and as you know today, there are a lot of successful female drag racers out there. Just look at the Force family, how many titles they have. I wish I was more educated in drag racing. I'd certainly love to get more into that. Of course, NHRA is also off due to the pandemic.
yep. Because all the races would have been on Fox Sports 1, the
Right.
Fox Sports, but it's kind of
Mhm.
impossible to see racing right now. But other than that, there's some iRacing events which people still say that's dumb. It's a video game.
It's more than that.
It's not a video game.
It's
We've
a racing simulator. There's a massive difference.
We've seen crashes that are like real life crashes because it's quite sensitive.
Also, let's see what we have here. More sad news. Unfortunately, this past week we learned that race car technical director, designer, and engineer, former F1 engineer Ricardo Davila, passed away at the age of 74. He worked on many of Le Mans cars, especially in the recent years with LMP2 machines, and that's just sad news to hear as well. The cause of death is unknown.
Yeah, we
See-
don't know.
Let's see what else. Speaking of Le Mans, Vision Automobile Paris, a French design company, manufacturer, engineering group, they are planning to enter a Garage 56 entry in the 2025 24 Hours of Le Mans,
2025?
using a car that's ran on biomethane fuel.
Mm.
Now, we know that Garage 56 entries are the most unique.
Wait, 2025. They're predicting in 5 years?
Well, they're trying to bring a car with biomethane fuel into the 24 Hours of Le Mans in 5 years' time.
But
I'm for it. I think it's a good idea.
The thing, how can they know that it's going to be ready by 2025?
They have 5 years to do it. 5 years to put this thing together.
What happens if they do it in 2 years? I don't know.
Here's the thing: it's a concept. This
I
is all new. We've seen many Garage 56 entries or special entries in the 24 Hours of Le Mans either make it through with their innovations or fall through the cracks like the Delta Wing did in recent years.
Oh yeah.
Actually, more like 6 years ago. Or the Nissan
Oh.
GTR LM Nismo front wheel drive prototype LMP1 class just
Well,
faltered through in 2015.
the Delta Wing had a moment, but not a good moment.
But
When
yeah, when they got hit by the Toyotas in 2012.
or the when there was a car stalled and the Delta Wing hit it in the 24-hour
Of Daytona.
in
They
2016.
not gonna lie. When I remember them racing in the top class, they did qualify fairly good, but they just
Yeah.
could not complete a race. But they
Okay.
had some really odd handling.
Yeah, and also remember the car that was stalled and they never threw a full course. They threw the local yellow, and that didn't. And then the Delta Wing-
Dark turn when I remember those. Like if any car's gonna hit it, I feel like it's gonna be the Delta Wing, and it sure
I
was.
know. And Catherine Legg was actually one of the drivers in that car, but they put the other guy. I don't remember his name. They put him in the car, and that's when the Delta Wing started. Not like the Delta.
I
Wing
forgot
had-
his name. It's been
I think his name started by Chris something. I don't know. I don't know who it is, but people, if you're lucky enough, go search it up because I don't even know.
a lot of Delta Wing crashes. I know they finished like 5th overall or something in 2012 Petite Le Mans. If you remember, I think it was Andy Mayrick. Andy Mayrick.
Rollers. Yeah, I don't. I'm trying to. Yeah, it was. I know it was not.
Andy Mayrick, Sean Ray Hall, and Andreas Worth. Those are the guys you're talking about. But like Nissan put some money in the program. But here's the thing: we also saw in 2015 when the GTR LM Nismo, a
Oh.
front-wheel drive LMP1 car, came out.
Where
And
I
it just
got
failed.
it was Andy Mayrick that was in the 0-1
I
race
figured.
crash. I remember Andy Mayrick's the guy that hit the 8 car that stalled. I don't know why IMSA officials like, nope, we're gonna throw a local yellow. Yeah,
They thought the
local
car
yellow.
was going to get back going.
It was in the middle of the
Yeah.
corner too. Like that was not a good place when it's right there at that corner. It's not a good place.
That
to,
would actually be the last Daytona 24 Hours with the Daytona prototype cars,
yeah,
because the DPIs would take over the next year.
in
let's-
2013, yeah.
Let's take a look and see what else we have. Let's talk about some esports, shall we?
Yes.
We had esports,
Yeah.
just like the other weeks. And let's talk about some IndyCar. So the Indy Grand Prix of AutoNation IndyCar Challenge at Texas, Circuit of the Americas,
Yep.
also known as Dakota, in Austin, Texas,
Yep.
was won by McLaren driver Lando Norris. He started
Yeah.
first, and he led 15 of the 32 laps, almost half the race.
But there's some points he spun off. One of the things he also, he spun off turn 20, which is the final turn at Coda. Plus, remember he had some contact. Remember when Felix Rosenquist messed up at one point of the track, and he didn't have to pit, but if he, do you want to know what I just realized? If Lando would have messed up a couple times, there could have been something with Pato O'Ward, and his teammate Pato O'Ward in the 5 got second. And some people, some drivers didn't have any luck. Some drivers didn't have luck. Some drivers crashed early. Will Power.
But the most bizarre moment of the race was really when Felix Rosenquist his car snapped around in the S's.
Yeah, the S's are tough.
And then Lando Norris, not only it looked like he avoided him by leaving the racetrack. He could have, most drivers would, but he stayed on the racing surface. But mind you, Lando Norris has been doing sim racing since he was a kindergartner. The age of 6 was when he
Yup.
first picked up iRacing.
Kindergarten.
Like the thing about Lando Norris, like the thing about Coda, in the S's, hitting the curb, you don't want to do that because your car gets light and snaps around. So don't hit the curb, basically. But it's hard to avoid a curb.
So let's look down the results. So obviously Lando Norris started first, finished first, led 15 laps, and his McLaren teammate Pato O'Ward led 10 laps to finish second. He started fifth. Felix Rosenquist, the highest Ganassi finisher, started and finished third. Scott McLaughlin started fourth, finished fourth, the highest Penske finisher. And then Dale Quinn Racing's Santino Ferrucci got fifth. Will Power, 6th. Looking down the list, Arenas VK, Marcus Ericsson, Alex Palu led a lap. He finished 9th. Joseph Newgarden, last year's series champion, finished in 10th. Scott Dixon, looking down the list, Felipe Nasser, Colton Herta, Simon Pagenaud, Alexander Rossi, Jack Harvey, Graham Rahal, Dalton Kellett, and his Canadian countryman, James Hinchcliffe for Jetty Autosport. And then 20th was Chaz Mostert, driving the
98.
98 car that had the same colors as his Walkinshaw Andretti United ride in supercars. Max Chilton finished 21st in the Carlin ride. Ed Carpenter in his own machine finished 22nd. Tony Kanaan. And then Sebastian Bourdais, Spencer Pigot, Zach Veach, Kyle Kaiser, Oliver Askew, Connor Daly, Takuma Sato, then Ryan Hunter-Ray, Robert Wickens, and Sage Karam, who crashed out. He started 6th, the driver at Ryan Bold Racing Machine.
And also remember at one point, remember Will Power? He actually spun at one point.
It snapped around on him.
Yeah, he started 2nd in the race, and he spun at one point into the wall, like in the S's again. Like those S's are tough. Those S's were tough for multiple drivers in that race. And Lando Norris ended up winning after spinning off turn 20 in the final corner, because off that final corner, for some reason, that final corner was so slick that if you let the power down too early, you would spin. So that's why you had to be careful getting off turn number 20 and make sure you don't hit the throttle too hard and spin.
Spun out.
All right, let's go ahead and see what else we had on esports. So on Saturday night, the NASCAR Xfinity cars were brought out with the up-and-coming drivers for the eNASCAR Saturday Night Thunder at Talladega, and it was wild. Landon Huffman pulled an upset victory, really, because he was quiet through and throughout that whole race. I saw the heats. It was kind of lackluster, but then it got real towards the end. And with that push from Justin Haley, he ended up winning the race over Josh Berry. And they wrecked twice. Once with the leader, Anthony Alfredo, crossing to take the white flag. And then again in the trial, just missing Huffman's car was Logan Seavey hitting the wall.
And also, before that, do you want to know what happened to one of the front runners?
What happened?
Logan Seavey turned Tyler Ankrum. Ankrum ended up crashing.
Oh, it's the big one.
Yeah, like Tyler Ankrum.
That was my pick, mind you.
Tyler Ankrum was just leading the race, doing good until he got spun out.
It was just the luck of the push, you know.
But, like, Landon Huffman really did good in his number 75 car. Like, I did not expect that finish, like him winning.
I thought it would have been someone like Tyler Ankrum or Chase Briscoe, but hey, it was Landon Huffman, so good for him.
And also, Angelo Ruck did not make the race. And also, do you want to know what's interesting about people that didn't realize? People are like, oh, it's not real life. You don't have to worry about your temps. No, in the Heat 2.
Yeah, they make it as realistic as possible.
Kaz Gralla
Blew an engine because he stayed behind
and missed the race.
He was 2nd in the Heat. He had to be in the
kind of like how Clint Boyer lost his motor.
Like he was.
Sim Racing doesn't care.
Like he was 20 of he had to be in the top 20. He finishes 21st. Ty Gibbs got the last spot in because he blew up.
Well,
like that sucks when you're running up front and your engine blows.
All right, let's go ahead and see the main NASCAR event on iRacing, which was the Pro Invitational Cup Series event, the Geico 70-mile race at Talladega Superspeedway. It was won in a photo finish. Alex Bowman over Corey LaJoie. Bowman led 8 laps. He started 22nd. Corey LaJoie from the pole led 7 laps, finished P2. And Ryan Preece, who started 31st, led a lap to finish 3rd. And Garrett Smithley, who led 3 laps, finished 4th. Landon Castle, 5th. William Byron, who probably spends the most time more than any other driver on iRacing at this track, finished 6th. Brendan Poole, Kurt Busch, the Busch brothers, 8th and 9th. Daniel Suarez, 10th. And just looking down the list, Timmy Hill, Kevin Harvick, Christopher Bell, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., J.J. Yeley, top 15. Parker Kligerman, Ryan Blaney, Eric Almirola, Brad Keselowski, Joey Gaze, Chad Fincham, Tyler Reddick, Ty Dillon, Austin Dillon, his Dillon brothers, 23rd, 24th. John Hunter Nemechek, who led 11 laps, finished 25th. 74 laps were complete. They ran into overtime. Cole Custer, Chris Buescher, Chase Elliott, Ross Chastain, Dale Earnhardt Jr. led 2 laps, started 4th, finished 30th. Was involved in a late race incident. Then Bobby Labonte, 2000 Series champion, finished 31st. Jimmy Johnson, Clint Boyer led a lap. He blew a motor, but the reset brought him back on the lead lap somehow, finished 33rd. Michael McDowell, can you believe 34 cars finished on the lead lap in that race? And then
Yeah.
Joey Logano, or Matt Benedetto, then Joey Logano. Eric Jones, they crashed out on lap 67. Jeff Gordon, who was in this race,
He ended up
finished
flipping
38th. His car
And
flipped
he
into the
flipped
catch.
over again.
it. Yeah, he didn't have a good race at.
Finished 39th, started 29th, but he had a decent race until those incidents. And Denny Hamlin, then last, led a lap. He disconnected. You want to know how he disconnected?
Children.
His
daughter.
daughter shut off the TV,
With the remote. Yeah, he was.
but he was in the back anyway, so I guess I could see
Yeah.
why it happened. All right, we got some questions here. Judson's Racing Network. If you could race against 3 drivers in an iRacing race, who would you choose? I would go for Dale Earnhardt Jr. because if you find Dale Earnhardt Jr. in iRacing, I guess you've kind of made it in that atmosphere. And then I would probably go for someone like Logan Seavey or Christopher Bell.
Yeah,
Like,
Jimmy Johnson for me. Yeah, definitely Jimmy Johnson. Yeah, I won't mind letting Castle as well because he's getting better. God, what's one more good one? Oh man, but really want to pick a good one that's really being.
What about Tony
really
Stewart?
good
He's
there.
on iRacing a
To
lot.
and hell, Timmy Hill.
my 3.
Just his stats at that time.
My 3, Timmy Hill, because he's really good. Another good one. Chase Briscoe. My 3rd one, he's really good on iRacing. He has over 900 victories. Ty Majeski. Oh, that'll be bad, me winning over Ty Majeski. I wonder how. Oh, that should be
You would get some bragging rights, I bet you.
But I don't know. Ty Majeski's really good on iRacing.
Oh yeah, I mean iRacing sponsors him.
But like Ty Majeski, do you want to know what's interesting about how his setup is sometimes when he's not at
He's like
his-
Richie Evans for
Yeah,
iRacing.
he's using his laptop. What a steering wheel.
I mean, yes, I have a laptop.
Yeah,
I
I
go on
started playing
Enter
2003 on a laptop.
Like,
and now
I'm doing
moving
Enter
to a
2003 on a
desktop.
laptop.
but do you want to know
And I
what's
moved to a
funny?
desktop and it's getting better. It
I
got
was-
better.
I was actually there was that thing a couple weeks ago. There was a R Factor race, which is a simulator. Like you saw Jensen Button, he was using a steering wheel and an actual computer. Because Jacques Villeneuve was also in that race. Guess what he used because he was on a trip? He used
A controller.
with a laptop. He used a controller.
That was the coolest thing. I mean,
Yeah, like
Joe says Dale Jr., Max Verstappen, Scott McLaughlin. Judson says
Ooh.
Chase Elliott, Austin Dillon, Steven Nasse. Okay.
wow, at least it's not Bubba Pollard.
Oh yeah, because when there's Steven Nasse, there must be Bubba Pollard. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at some other news. Ryan Newman will be cleared. will be cleared
Bye.
by medical officials
Yep.
to drive in the NASCAR Cup Series. It was reported on NASCAR Race Hub with an interview with Lindsey Sarniak
Yeah.
that he did some testing at Darlington with medical staff in attendance to monitor how he gets in and out of the car, doing some laps around the track, and kind of like how
Yeah.
a return race at Darlington is possible. You
Like,
saw right there during the off weeks, Ryan Newman
was-
getting in the car and being observed by doctors
like
at Darlington.
Also, the thing about that, like, like after drivers recover, they do tests like that. Remember in 2015 when Kyle Busch, he before getting in the Cup car at Charlotte, he tested. He did a test at a short track. He literally did two different test sessions at a short track, which was really interesting. Like that's what basically Ryan Newman did. And I actually heard this, that Ryan Newman said, guess what he said to the media? That he doesn't remember the crash. That crash that happened. He doesn't remember it. Like, he doesn't know what happened because, you know why.
Yeah,
like,
that's pretty common. Most people,
Yeah.
they don't remember when
yeah,
you
because
boom.
that crash was violent. Like, the fans know what happened. Like, everybody watching, he doesn't know what happened. That's the thing. He didn't know what happened. Because that was a massive crash. Like, it was not, like, it's not like Brendan Gaughan's flip. He
But
flipped.
here's the thing. Here's the thing about Ryan Newman's crash. Okay, first of all, there was a certain bar called the Newman Bar that he
Yeah, the
pushed to have
bar.
innovated
Yup.
on
yeah, the
his
bar.
around the roll
Yeah.
cage, right around here, kind of where the head is, driver's head. This is
Yep.
where the so-called Newman Bar is.
Yup.
And if you see me, that is. If you're not sitting there listening, actually watching me, that's where the Newman Bar is, kind of like
yeah.
a few feet ahead away from your head.
Yeah.
That saved his life essentially, and
Yeah,
the
because-
impact from Corey LaJoie's car, which was really the
Ooh.
one that injured him,
Yeah.
was
Ooh.
was where that bar was, and because of it, the injury was less severe, and Newman was able to walk out of the hospital just 2 days later.
Yeah, which still
Wow.
shocks many people.
Yeah, like that crash was violent. Like, it was not just like the typical thing. Like, it's not like just the typical, oh, we see a big crash and like,
It wasn't even. It was a violent, abrupt crash with a hit.
yeah, it was not like
It was at
Brendan
full
Gaughan's
speed.
flip. Like Brendan Gaughan, he flipped over, but he didn't get hit. He landed on all four tires.
It wasn't more like that. More, I'd say.
Like, he didn't, like, he like did a barrel roll, landed on back. Like, he didn't have the hardest
When we talk about Kyle Busch's crash,
he hit
where we saw the car, it wasn't enough to protect him.
But like, I heard, do you wanna know what? That wall, there was no safer barrier. It was a
Exactly.
wood wall. It was wood. That was literal wood down there.
Exactly.
But then they replaced it and actual put a safer barrier. So
You need the safer barrier and the car
Yeah.
design to keep a driver safe. Sometimes it's one or the other, but most times it's both.
but like,
All right, Judson says, if you could be best friend with one ARCA driver, one Truck Series driver, one Xfinity driver, and one Cup driver, which
oh
is-
my.
well, I would probably be friends with Michael Self. He would pay for my gas at Sinclair Oil.
Ah!
Uh,
Okay. I just remembered. For me, ARCA driver, that's for me, Chandler Smith. Like, the thing about it, he's my age. One, he's turning 18 in June. Two, he has sponsors sometimes from JBL and other things.
you like headphones?
Yeah, you need that, and also
Then he's the man for you.
he's one, he's really talented.
Oh,
if
for sure.
people haven't noticed,
He's
he-
proven himself.
like
Let's
yeah.
see. Okay, Truck Series driver. I would, for a Truck Series driver, probably Derek Kraus, because he added me back on Snapchat a few years ago, and we're still friends on Snapchat, even though we hardly ever say anything to each other. And you know what? I'm not gonna say that part. Actually, that's not gonna.
Oh, I know. For me, for the Truck Series,
But he views my story, so that's cool.
I think one of I think for me, this driver's Canadian, but people would think Stuart Friesen. No, Raphael
Rafael
Lessard.
Lessard.
One, he's Canadian. He speaks French also because from Quebec, so he speaks French, and which I understand it and speak it. If people didn't know that, and also other things like he's a good race car driver. Also, he won in his first Penny Series start, which ended under a red flag because of rain, but he still did good in his first start. So yeah, Rafael Lessard would be my a friend.
I could also argue and say that Austin Hill would be a cool guy to hang out with.
Yeah.
Because, he and I have similarities. Like, he had to work twice as hard to get a good ride. I had to work
Yeah.
twice as hard to be put on the ice when I played hockey. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like that we go hand in hand. As for Xfinity Series drivers, I would probably say Ross Chastain.
Ooh, for me, this is hard. I don't even know for Xfinity.
I'll quickly tell you my 4 drivers:
Oh, go ahead.
Chandler Smith, Todd Gilliland, believe it or not, Jimmy Johnson for Cup, no doubt about it, and crap, I already forgot my favorite Xfinity driver. Sorry to all you, Brendan Jones, because I got an autograph from him.
Raphael and Derek are awesome guys. I always love talking to them on the track. That's good, and they have good personalities.
Like
Lucky.
I don't even know for my. I'm trying to think for my Xfinity. Ooh. Like it's so. Oh, I know. Anthony Alfredo.
You know what? That is so true because
Like
he's been on our channel before.
like Anthony Alfredo, he like not just because of I played some NASCAR Heat 4 and I remember I did a career mode video yesterday. He because I was driving cleanly on the track in the truck series, he said I was driving good, so yeah.
Oh, because playing against the AIs there.
Yeah, I'm not those people that just provoke people and wreck people. I'm not those, but I do have too many Xfinity.
See, I want to get back on NASCAR 06. Well, my original Xbox needs to go downstairs first.
But I just have too many rivals. Like in Xfinity,
You should see my list, dude.
I have John Jackson, Cesar Baccarella, and Jeff Green as rivals.
Speaking of Xfinity, I downloaded the new Xfinity mod on Enter 2003, 2020.
I don't even know who I would pick for Cup. I don't even know.
Oh, for Cup, oh, that's tough. I would probably say like Martin Truex Jr. Say what you want, Austin.
I don't even know. Like it's so hard picking a driver.
Okay, stop now.
He's a word
pick
I
him.
really can't say on here.
I say William Byron, cause like he's young.
He likes computers.
Yeah, yeah, like he does, and he has talent, which you see talent from him.
Oh, clearly, yes.
Yeah, winning 7 truck races is not just it's not like he was given those wins. He actually did good in those races, which he didn't win the championship, which some fans say he should.
I like Martin Truex Jr. because he likes seafood.
And he does like
Worst excuse ever.
wow. I don't even know. I do see Martin Truex Jr. fishing a lot. Ryan Newman does some fishing too. Plus, also Martin Truex Jr. is sponsored by Bass Pro Shops. My friend is addicted with Bass Pro Shops. He wants
Probably gets free Bass Pro Shops.
he buys his clothes from there. He buys everything from there almost. He goes to Bass Pro Shops
People
more than
just-
Walmart.
I've only been there once.
I've been to
Same
Bass,
here.
I've been to Bass Pro Shops twice.
The only
That's-
time in Foxborough, Massachusetts.
I've been. My first time I went was actually the opening of Bass Pro Shops because I met Ty Dillon and Richard Childress. One of my Facebook photos is me, Richard Childress, and Ty Dillon. And yeah, that was when Ty Dillon drove full-time Xfinity in 2015. I do remember that.
Yeah, I know. Did you meet Ty Dillon?
Yeah, I did meet him. He was actually a nice person. Yep.
All right.
Anything else, or should we wrap it up soon?
I think we have everything covered. Guys, thank you so much for watching.
Also,
Yeah, go ahead.
You gotta check out the on Saturday. Check out the IndyCar event is actually at Indianapolis on Saturday.
The virtual Indy 500.
They're also gonna have Saturday Night Thunder from Dover. Check that out. Also, if on
I
your
miss the
local
ESPN
Fox,
version.
some Fox stations don't
Probably
know
not
who.
us.
No, Fox Boston's not showing it. They're going to show the 1994 Brickyard 400, which is interesting. And also on Sunday, check out the eNASCAR event from Dover. Fox and FS1. Fox Boston not showing it again. So check Fox and FS1 for that on Sunday.
You know, I didn't get nothing on my local Fox. I had to watch it on FS1 too, because everything had to be breaking news. This breaking news, that.
For me,
But that's really how those networks been like for the last.
For me, it was
Yeah.
paid. For me, it was
They're
paid
showing whatever the hell
programming.
that is, and it's
paid
showing-
programming, like at 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Order
they-
this vacuum cleaner, and we'll give you double the offer. Just pay separate processing and handling.
The other
Okay,
day I saw an ad. It was a thing for wrinkles. Like,
Oh, crepe skin.
they said it works in 4 minutes. I'm like, yes, putting that on your skin. Oh, it works in 4 minutes. I wonder if that actually does work. I don't know. I'm not buying that. I'm not old yet. We're not that old yet.
Yeah, let's not
Yeah,
get ahead
this
of
is
ourselves.
interesting. Gonna
Yeah.
very quickly say on my local NBC station, they're actually showing the 2019 MotoGP from Thailand.
Really? Wait, let me check that right now.
Yeah, that's what it says. Well, again, this is NBC Boston. Of course, he lives.
What?
Oh, really? Because
What?
I just put on NBCSN. I have
Again,
tennis.
Local NBC
Oh,
on
local.
Sunday, May 3rd.
Oh, on May 3rd. I was gonna say today. I'm like, right now is The Voice. I was about to say. The Voice is not that, I don't think.
Yeah, I should have said it a little bit more specific.
If
Yeah,
you're not
because-
aware, NBC has the American TV rights to MotoGP for the first time in 2020. So yeah, with that said,
Yeah, I
thank
do
you so
see
much,
that.
guys, for watching. For my partners Daniel Ford, Austin Lepente, and Justin Hebert, I'm
Yeah.
Joseph Laney Pavlon signing off. We'll be back next week for episode 57. Stay
Yep.
tuned.
It's Norm Benning.
No.